Imagine you upload a 100-page standard construction contract into one of these AI tools.
Right, which people do all the time now.
Exactly. And you need to quickly find, say, the penalty clauses for a delayed steel delivery.
Sure.
So it spits out this perfectly formatted, highly confident summary in like 5 seconds. You rely on it, you submit your commercial claim, and a month later, boom, you lose $1 million in a bitter dispute.
Yeah, a complete disaster.
And why does that happen? Not because the AI couldn't comprehend the text, but because of this bizarre mathematical glitch called the lost in the middle effect. It just entirely missed a massive liability caveat sitting squarely on page 50.
I mean, that specific scenario plays out far more often than people realize. It really does.
I can imagine.
You have incredibly smart project managers out there who are, treating these tools like infallible oracles. They're completely unaware of the mechanical plumbing that's failing right underneath them.
Well, we are dedicating this deep dive to fixing exactly that plumbing. We've got our hands on a remarkably insightful instructional module today, and it's tailored specifically for construction and project management.
Which is so needed right now.
It really is, because the mission here is to strip away all the Silicon Valley PR hype for you. If you are using these systems to manage millions of dollars or complex schedules or heavy legal liability.
Oh, right, real stakes.
Exactly, real stakes. Relying on a system that you view as this mysterious magic box is just a terrible strategy.
It is. Treating a large language model like a magic 8-ball is actually dangerous.
Yeah.
A far better mental framework for you to use is to view it as a massive, entirely unorganized filing cabinet. I mean, it holds almost everything ever written, but it will only hand you the right file if you know the exact mechanical combination to the lock.
I love that framing, a mechanical combination lock.
Yeah.
Because if you're the kind of listener who is naturally skeptical of AI, someone who critically interrogates systems instead of just blindly clicking buttons and hoping for the best.
You're actually the ideal user.
Yes. You are the exact person best positioned to really master this technology. We just need to unpack the actual mechanics of what happens the moment you hit send on a prompt.
Right into the nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's unpack this. Let's start at the absolute basement layer of how an LLM actually functions, because it feels almost embarrassingly simple when you read it.
It really does. I mean, the foundational reality of a large language model is that it is fundamentally just autocomplete.
Just autocomplete, like on my phone.
Basically, yeah. It's a profoundly scaled up, mathematically sophisticated version, but at its core, it is executing the exact same task as the text messaging app on your smartphone.
Okay, wait, really?
Yeah. It evaluates the string of text you just submitted, it calculates the probabilities, and then it predicts the single most likely next word. And then it recalculates and predicts the next word over and over again.
Okay, but I mean, my phone struggles to accurately predict what I want to eat for dinner.
Right. But when I ask an AI to write, say, a formal extension of time notice under a standard AS4000 contract, which for anyone listening outside of Australia is a very widely used set of general conditions.
Very common, yeah.
When I ask it to do that, it spits out flawless, highly nuanced legalese. If the mechanism is really just guessing the next word, how is the output so remarkably competent?
Well, the difference there is entirely about the scale of the training data.
The scale.
Right. Your phone's autocomplete. It learned its patterns from your personal typing history. So maybe a few thousand casual text messages.
Right. Lots of typos and abbreviations.
Exactly. But foundation models are trained on billions of parameters. They have systematically consumed decades of Supreme Court judgments, vast libraries of engineering specifications, scientific papers.
Basically the whole internet.
A massive chunk of the public internet, yeah. So the mechanism itself remains simple probability, but the knowledge base it draws from is so vast that the output authentically mimics true comprehension.
The source material uses this analogy that I think lands perfectly for anyone in project management.
Oh, the foreman analogy.
Yeah, the foreman. So imagine a veteran site foreman who has been out in the dirt for 30 years.
He's invaluable, right?
The guy you rely on for everything.
Exactly. He's seen every type of delay, every weather event, every single contractor dispute. Now imagine he somehow read every daily site report and variation claim ever written in the history of the industry.
And he can instantly recall any of it.
Right. That is essentially what you are querying. But I need to challenge this whole autocomplete premise for a second.
Okay, go for it.
When I have a back-and-forth conversation with one of these models to troubleshoot a really complex site issue, It genuinely feels like it understands the nuance of my problem. It feels like intuition, not just math.
Well, what's fascinating here is that that feeling of intuition is probably the single most convincing illusion in modern software.
An illusion. Wow.
Yeah, and understanding why it's an illusion requires refining that veteran foreman analogy a bit.
How so? Well, your actual 30-year foreman, he lived through those physical site delays. He felt the actual panic when the concrete trucks backed up down the street. He intuitively understands the physical, spatial reality of a job site.
Right. The real world.
Exactly. The LM only ever processed text strings about concrete.
Oh,
It doesn't know what concrete actually feels like or, how fast it sets on a hot 40-degree day.
So it's the difference between knowing the map and knowing the territory.
Yes, exactly.
Like, the AI has perfectly memorized the map of the English language, but it has never actually walked the territory itself.
That's a phenomenal way to distinguish it. The model is pattern matching text. If you feed it a scenario about a delayed concrete pour, it mathematically surfaces the words that most often follow that scenario in its training data.
Right.
It is mimicking the intuition of a million foremen, but without possessing the actual lived experience of a single one.
Okay, so if the model is just processing text strings based on probabilities, then we really have to look at how it mechanically reads what I give it.
We do.
Because if I drop a 200-page tender document into the prompt box, it obviously isn't scanning paragraphs left to right like a human reading a novel. Right?
No, it doesn't read words at all. It instantly chops your text into these granular chunks called tokens.
Tokens.
Yeah, you can think of a token as roughly 3/4 of a standard English word.
Okay.
Sometimes a token represents a whole short word, but frequently it's just a syllable, or even like a solitary piece of punctuation.
The sources gave some brilliant, really specific examples of this slicing process that make it very real.
Oh yeah, they break it down perfectly.
Yeah, like take the word superintendent. A human sees one unified concept, right? But the AI algorithm chops that into 4 distinct tokens, super int and ent,
Right.
or the word liquidated, as in liquidated damages. The model sees 2 distinct mathematical tokens, liquid and ated.
And it applies the exact same process to numerical data, too, which is super important for construction.
How does that work?
Well, if you reference a specific clause, like, say, 35.2, the model processes 3 separate tokens. It sees the number 35, the full stop, and then the number 2.
I mean, breaking language down like that seems a bit tedious, but the sources emphasize that understanding tokens is totally non-negotiable.
It is.
Because, from what I read, tokens dictate the model's working memory.
Yes, and that working memory is known as the context window.
The context window.
Exactly. Every model has a hard physical limit on how many tokens it can hold in its active brain at one single time.
Those context windows are expanding pretty rapidly, though, aren't they?
Oh, massively.
Because the material notes that modern models can handle upwards of 200,000 tokens simultaneously.
Which is huge.
Yeah, to put that scale in perspective for you, that is roughly equivalent to uploading a full standard contract, plus all the technical annexures, plus 6 entire months of daily site reports all processed in seconds.
It's mind-boggling.
It is, and my immediate instinct reading that is, fantastic, I'm just going to dump my entire project hard drive right into the prompt. The more background the AI has, the better.
No. Doing that is a surefire way to orchestrate the exact million-dollar mistake you mentioned in our introduction.
Wait, really? Why?
Because a 200,000 token limit means the model can process that much volume, not that it should.
Oh, I see.
When you dump your entire hard drive into the context window, you introduce a devastating amount of irrelevant noise.
Like all the daily emails and fluff.
Exactly. The model is forced to sift through thousands of tokens about, Friday lunch orders and staff parking complaints just to find the single relevant sentence about a delayed structural steel delivery.
That makes sense.
Tightly curated, focused context will always yield a mathematically superior result. Always.
Okay, so that concept of focus naturally raises a massive question for me.
Go ahead.
Let's say I avoid the hard drive dump, but I do paste in a highly dense 50-page legal specification.
Right enough.
Out of those thousands of tokens, how does the model actually know what to focus on? How does it mathematically separate the critical signal from the background noise?
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
This brings us to the core engine of modern AI, a mechanism called attention.
Attention.
Yeah. This is the specific mathematical innovation that separates today's powerful tools from those clunky, basically useless chatbots we had 10 years ago.
Oh, I remember those. Terrible.
Right. So when the model processes your thousands of tokens, it doesn't simply read linearly. It calculates a relational weight between every single token and every other token in your prompt, all simultaneously.
So it's essentially building this giant web of connections.
Yes, exactly.
Like it calculates how strongly token A relates to token B and token C all the way down the line.
Exactly. The tokens act almost like magnets pulling on the mathematical weights in the AI's training data. Let's look at the practical example from the sources.
Sure.
Imagine you type a single word into your prompt. Delay.
I mean, delay is a massively broad concept.
Yeah. Right. To the model, that single token sends out incredibly weak attention signals. Its massive neural network is pulling in a million different directions.
Because it doesn't know context yet.
Exactly. Are we talking about a delayed flight, a delayed lunch break, a traffic delay? The model's attention is entirely scattered because the signal is weak.
But if I cluster my words, right? Like if I type clause 35.2 delay.
You completely change the math.
Oh, wow.
The tokens for clause 35.2 and delay combine to act as a highly targeted magnet. They heavily pull on the specific mathematical weights in the AI's training data that deal with contract law, extension of time provisions, and construction standards.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, the model mechanically abandons the traffic and lunch concepts and clusters its attention entirely on your legal domain. Specificity is quite literally a steering wheel for the model's focus.
Which totally explains why lazy one-sentence prompts yield generic, useless textbook answers.
Exactly.
You just haven't given the attention mechanism enough mathematical magnets to latch onto.
That is the mechanical reality. And it gets even more fascinating when we apply this attention mechanism to large document reviews. Which brings us right back to your opening scenario with the lost $1 million on page 50.
Ah, right. The lost in the middle effect.
Yes. Research clearly shows that these models do not distribute their attention evenly across a massive wall of text.
They don't.
No, the math degrades. They assign the absolute highest mathematical weight, the strongest attention to the tokens at the very beginning of your prompt, and the tokens at the very end.
And the middle?
The middle gets statistically ignored. It literally fades from the model's active focus.
That is wild. So if my prompt says, please review this contract, and then I paste 100 pages of legal text, and finally buried at the very bottom of the paste, I ask, are there any punitive clauses about steel delivery?
You might hallucinate that everything is perfectly fine.
Just because its attention mathematically degraded right around page 50.
Exactly. The mechanism broke down. But the fix for you is purely structural.
How so?
You need to bookend the noise with your strongest attention signals.
Yeah.
Always put your primary instructions, your role, your goal, your strict parameters at the very top of the prompt.
Okay.
Then insert your large document. Then, crucially, reiterate your specific question at the absolute bottom.
So instructions first, data second, question last.
You got it.
That is such a practical, immediate upgrade. All right, so let's say we've done everything right. We curated our tokens. We structured the prompt to maximize the attention weights.
Perfect.
The model is ready to predict the next word. But earlier we talked about how it generates a ranked list of probabilities. How does it pick the actual word it prints on the screen? Does it always just grab the mathematical favorite?
It doesn't have to. The user actually controls this via a setting called temperature.
Temperature?
Yeah. Temperature is basically the control dial for mathematical randomness in the model's predictions.
Okay, break down how that dial actually manipulates the output for us.
Sure. When the model ranks the possibilities for the next token, token A might have an 85% probability, token B has 10%, token C has 2%, and so on.
Makes sense.
If you set your temperature dial to absolute 0, the model operates completely deterministically. It will select the number one most statistically probable token every single time without fail.
No deviation.
None. If you run the exact same prompt at temperature 0 100 times, you get the exact same text 100 times.
So you basically strip out all the creativity and leave just the raw math.
Correct. But as you turn that temperature dial up, you instruct the algorithm to introduce calculated randomness.
All right.
You give it mathematical permission to bypass the 85% favorite and occasionally pick the 10% option or the 2% option. This randomness produces more varied human-sounding language.
I mean, that sounds great for a creative writing exercise, but walk me through a hypothetical disaster here.
Oh, they happen.
What happens if a project manager is doing heavy commercial work, say, drafting a formal non-conformance report or a legal back charge, and they just leave the temperature high?
A high temperature on a legal claim is incredibly reckless.
Really?
Oh, yeah. The model might bypass the standard, legally robust phrasing that has an 80% probability and select a flowery, ambiguous adjective that has a 5% probability simply because the temperature setting demanded creativity.
Oh, wow.
Suddenly, your airtight legal notice says substantial breach instead of material breach. The wording becomes open to interpretation, which in a contractual dispute translates directly to lost money.
Right. So what are the actionable numbers here? Where should our listeners actually set this dial for their daily workflow?
If you are doing analytical work, so contract review, formatting commercial claims, or schedule analysis, you need to manually pull the temperature down to somewhere between zero point 0.1 and zero point 0.3.
Point 1 to point 3. Got it.
You want precision. You want it locked in.
Yeah.
Conversely, if you are doing creative work-like brainstorming site logistics, writing an engaging tender narrative, or drafting a team newsletter, push it up to zero point 0.8 or even 1.0.
And what if I'm just logging into the standard web interface of a major AI platform and I don't touch the settings at all?
The default is usually set around zero point 0.7.
Point 7.
Yeah. The tech companies want the AI to sound engaging and conversational to the general public. But for rigorous professional construction management, zero point 0.7 is dangerously high for formal documentation. You have to take control of that setting.
I feel like that mechanical randomness actually perfectly sets up the biggest anxiety people have with this technology.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if turning up the temperature inherently introduces randomness, then we are actively increasing the chance that the model just makes something up.
Yes, we are.
If I'm listening to this right now, I'm probably thinking, why on earth would I entrust my contract review to a tool that is mechanically capable of inventing facts? How do we justify that risk?
Well, we don't justify it. We manage it through awareness.
Right.
You're talking about hallucinations here.
Yeah, hallucinations.
And this is where the autocomplete reality truly bites. Because it is pattern matching text and not retrieving hard facts from a verified database, the model has absolutely no internal alarm system when it guesses.
It never pauses the generation to say, hey, I'm only 15% sure about this next paragraph. You might want to double check my math.
Never. It will deliver a flawlessly articulated, confidently authoritative answer that is entirely fictitious.
That's terrifying.
It can be. But the advantage we have is that these hallucinations are rarely random. The mechanics actually fail in predictable ways. There are 3 specific traps you need to look out for.
Okay, walk us through trap number 1.
Specific citations and clause numbers. The model has digested massive volumes of legal structures, so it recognizes the shape of a clause reference.
The shape?
Yeah, it knows that in standard contracts, dispute resolution clauses are often clustered in the 40s. So it might confidently predict clause 42.1.
And maybe for a ubiquitous standard like AS 4000, it actually gets that right because there was enough training data.
Exactly, that happens. But if you ask it about a highly obscure, localized municipal standard, the attention mechanism doesn't have enough data to find the real number.
But it won't just tell you it doesn't know.
No, remember, the autocomplete mechanism abhors a vacuum. It will simply invent a highly plausible-sounding clause number just to complete the structural pattern of a legal document. You cannot trust its citations without verifying them.
Okay, trap number 2.
The training cutoff date. Training these foundation models costs hundreds of millions of dollars, so they only do it periodically. Every model stopped learning the internet on a specific day.
Meaning if a brand new building standard was released like 2 months ago, or a major appellate court just overturned a precedent last week.
The model is entirely blind to it. It will confidently advise you based on the obsolete patterns it learned 3 years ago. You cannot rely on it for breaking regulatory changes without manually pasting that new text directly into your prompt.
Right, and the third trap, because this one seems like the most dangerous pitfall for just everyday correspondence.
Project-specific gaps. The AI has never walked your site. It doesn't know your contract sum, your critical path program dates, or the names of your subcontractors.
So if I tell it to write a stern warning letter to a subcontractor for poor performance, but I forget to provide the subcontractor's actual name in my prompt,
it won't politely leave a blank space or a bracket saying, insert name here. The mathematical drive to complete the text pattern forces it to invent a name.
Unbelievable.
It might call them Acme Plumbing. It might hallucinate a contract sum of $50,000 just because those tokens frequently appear in warning letters. It invents facts to satisfy the pattern. It prioritizes sounding correct over being correct.
Taking all of this together, the autocomplete math, the tokens, the attention weights, the temperature, it demands a massive shift in how we approach the software.
Completely.
What is the ultimate mental model our listeners should walk away with today?
The most effective mental model is a clear shift in perspective. Do not treat the LLM as a subject matter expert. Treat it as a remarkably fast, exceptionally well-read first drafter who possesses zero common sense and zero lived experience.
Right, it's the ultimate junior assistant. It can do 90% of the heavy lifting in 30 seconds. You can ask it to structure a complex daily report. You can ask it to do a rapid first-pass review to flag departures on a standard AS 4902-2000 subcontract.
And gives you the structure instantly.
Exactly.
But that final 10% is entirely on you. The human verification is non-negotiable. You verify the clause numbers. You check the dollar amounts. You confirm the dates against your actual schedule. You inject the physical reality of the job site that the AI fundamentally lacks.
Let's anchor this with one final, hyper-specific example from the material.
Sure.
Let's say you need a toolbox safety talk. If you give a lazy prompt with weak attention signals, you get generic garbage.
Yep.
But if you apply everything we learned today, you write something like, write a 10-minute toolbox talk for a team of 8 electrical subcontractors who are installing cable trays at 4 to 6 meters above ground level on an industrial site in Queensland. Include the specific legislative reference for the relevant WHS work health and safety regulation, and integrate our company's 3-step pre-work check.
Look at the mechanical density of that prompt. You fed the attention mechanism highly specific token clusters. Queensland, electrical subs, cable trays, 4 to 6 meters.
Magnets.
Exactly, magnets. Because of that specificity, the 90% draft it generates in seconds is going to be structurally brilliant and incredibly targeted. Then you step in for your 10% job.
Which is verifying that the specific work health and safety regulation it cited is actually the current correct code and making sure the physical logistics make sense for your specific crew.
It is the perfect division of labor. The technology handles the massive scale and speed of pattern matching, and you provide the precision of human judgment. That is how you transform your daily workflow without stepping on $1 million landmine.
We began by talking about the fear of the magic box, but now that we've taken the lid off, we can see the gears turning underneath.
And mastering those gears, the probabilities, the context windows, the token processing, is what separates the professionals who will struggle with AI from the professionals who will use AI to gain an enormous operational advantage.
I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. A question to take back to your desk today. If context is truly the currency of AI, and if these massive systems rely entirely on the specific words you feed them to steer their attention mechanism,
Oh, this is a great point.
how might you need to change the way you organize your own project notes, your daily site records, and your emails right now, today, so that they are perfectly AI ready for tomorrow?
That's the real question.
Are your notes currently just a vague mess, or are they a structured goldmine of context just waiting to be plugged in? Think about the tokens you're leaving behind. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us.